Welcome to the video format of the Entrepreneur Lifestyle Podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to our podcast using the link below. And now enjoy this interview. Today, I'm here with Dario Cucci, who is a holistic and sales business coach. He's been in sales for over 20 years. I've known him for a few years now, so I'm super excited to get him on my podcast. Dario, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Brilliant. So can you just, in 60 seconds or less, give us a bit of an overview of your journey, just so our listeners can have more of an understanding of where you've been and what you're currently doing?
Okay, 60 seconds. Okay. I grew up in Switzerland. When I was about 26 years old, I moved over to Australia, lived there for 15 years. During those 15 years, I worked first as a personal trainer for almost 5 years. Then after that, I just decided I want to dive deeper and learn more about the human behavior and how to change the subconscious mind. I studied and certified as an NLP master practitioner on NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, and other things around. And I started working within the self-development industry, first with that Tony Robbins Team in Australia, where I had a breakthrough and I ended up doing really well selling his programs over the phone. And as a result of it, that's how my career path went up. For almost 10 years in a row, I made over $1 million sales revenue selling over the phone, services, mentoring programs, that sort of thing. And not just of Tony Robbins, but of others as well. Eventually, I had a health scare where I didn't know what it was, if I had a stroke or something else. It was Bell's palsy in the end, and I decided I just had a breakthrough that I needed to focus on serving people in how they can actually create a better life and share my knowledge with them, standing as the mentor and expert that I am instead of putting myself second and third. So I changed my life around. I moved back to Switzerland. Was a co-author of a few best-selling books. One of them was Journey of Riches. Wrote my own books such as Crossroads to Clarity and Turning Customers into Profit. And since then, about now 7 years, I've been self-employed, working for myself, having my own business, working with entrepreneurs, coaches, and personal trainers to help them not only make more sales, but also sustain the sales growth within the company, improving their mindset, communication, and leadership skills.
Well, I've got to say, what an introduction and what a journey you've been on. It's truly amazing, where you've been, what you've done, and how you've overcome, so many different challenges to kind of be where you are. And I want us to dive into sales, but before we do, I do want to have a better understanding, because I think a lot of people have pivoted their business in different ways. They've shifted. And when you had Bell's palsy, for the first time, and I know obviously it happened a couple of times, I believe, since then, when you were overcoming that and you were trying to figure out how to change and start over and start living in congruency to your own life purpose, what were some of the steps that you found were very helpful in order for you to move through that for the listeners that are also struggling?
Look, as tough as it is, we need to be accountable for the creation of our lives, even if you don't like it. So the one thing that I had to look at was, what did I create that I didn't like? And hit it head on, and also be honest with myself and not just try to put it under the rug or, just ignore it or, whatever. And that was the first thing that I needed to do. Second thing I needed to do is I needed to surround myself with positive-minded people and people that could help me. Mm-hmm. And I needed to be not too proud to ask for help. I mean, at one stage, I actually reached out to you and you helped me. Because when you go through a tough situation, there are moments where you're so involved that you cannot see anything below, in front of you. It's like, that saying, like, you don't see the forest because of the trees in front of you. And we all have those situations, no matter how well we are trained as coaches. So that's the second thing. And the third thing ultimately is implementation. You continuously need to implement your own self-improvement, no matter if it's in your life or in your business or in your health. So it's a continuation of keep on improving along the lines of applying yourself better. And that also involves having coaches and mentors that actually have the experience to coach and mentor you on where you're at. So that's an important thing, because one of the things is I would not be as good in what I do right now when it comes to sales coaching and that sort of, and also reprogramming the subconscious mind, if I had not worked in the field myself. And so therefore I know what people go through when they're on a phone call and they hit the wall, or they don't know how to handle an objection, or they take it personally and they feel down and they make themselves down. I know all that. So when I'm listening to someone holding a sales conversation, or a conversation that could turn into a sale, I also know when they're pushing and when they're fake and when they're actually doing the hard sell. And so I can actually pick up on that and go, okay, here is what you need to improve on. And the same goes for your life. You know, just like you, when you and I talked about it, you said to me during when I was down, so what is it that you ultimately need to learn in order for you to have a positive life experience? What is it that you can learn from that experience? And that's those sort of questions and coachings to have ongoing, not just once and stop, but ongoingly, is very important.
I love that. And thank you for sharing, so authentically. I think that very often when people see, someone like yourself, this guy who has just had an amazing journey and can obviously crush it in sales, often they don't understand kind of the different challenges that you had to overcome in order to get to the position that you're in. Now, what's fascinating is because of the experience that you've had in self-development, like selling that on the phone, being able to connect with people, I think a lot of people now are struggling to build that trust and authenticity through the online world, right? And because you've had so much experience even before COVID, I'm curious from your standpoint, what do you see as some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they're attempting to sell perhaps their service or product from an online standpoint and attempting to perhaps build the trust that they struggle with building it online versus in person?
Well, the first thing is that misconception that when you're doing well in sales, that you don't need help anymore, that it's all right. I'm doing fine. Thank you so much. You don't know that. And it's a misconception that is hurting you, the listener. If you are doing well and you're making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, for instance, and you do well, I am absolutely certain, without even knowing you, that there are challenges that you're going through, because it wouldn't be normal if you don't. We all do. So obviously the one thing that is hurting right now is the marketing ultimately sells the short-term goal to people. The problem with that is we are churning and burning clients, literally. So there's high-end programs and coaching packages. We are selling that. And then after that, that's it. There is no trust building after that. There is no system in place to ultimately get to know your client, even if they stopped, coaching with you. There is no retention system in place. There is absolutely no thought of how can I serve my clients long-term? What other things can I do to serve them better? What are things that ultimately enhance my services, and which partners could I use as a complementary kind of service that I don't provide, but I can refer to help my clients? And that comes over time. So the biggest problem that we have today in online coaching is that we think short-term instead of long-term. And we need to start rethink that, because if you want people to refer new clients to you, when a client starts, if you build the relationships, not just during the coaching sessions, but after that and before that, and continue to, be there for them. And that's something that most business owners underestimate.
And I think the challenge that many people, I think, faced when it came to COVID was being that in survival mindset of looking for these short-term gains and really sacrificing perhaps the longer-term relationships with their clients. So what do you find is some of the perhaps most effective strategies when you're looking at sales and gaining clients in order to be able to have that client for the long term?
Well, the first thing that I think is there is no point in selling a high-end program if the person then after that they end up going into survival mode. So you always need to, especially in coaching, so personal training, coaching, anything that is a luxury service for a person to have, they need to be able to have a good life even after they pay you as the expert. So if they need to take out a loan, that's not a good sign. Okay, so it needs to be that they can afford it, and if they can't afford it, you need to find a solution that they can without going into desperation mode of I need to somehow get that money again, because otherwise they cannot be focused on their self-development. They will be focused on surviving, and you know how it is when you survive. You get blinders on. You don't look at the world as a possibility. You look at the world as a survival mode. And therefore you miss things, and therefore you cannot evolve. And so what needs to happen is, instead of just selling a high-end program, sell something that is affordable to people. It doesn't need to be cheap, but then when they get certain results, when they get to that place where they go, wow, I didn't even know I had that in me. Now I can actually serve people more. I can make more sales. Then have a higher end program where they spend more time with you, because now then not only do they know that person can get me the results, they also can now make more use of your time, because they're in a different mindset and they're in a different situation, and now you can actually tap into that potential and leverage that, whereas before they weren't there. And it's that sort of thing that needs to happen in business ultimately, because otherwise you will have a client for 3-6 months and then they go again. You know, that's the problem.
Yeah. And the hardest thing for any business is, or the most expensive thing, is to be able to acquire a new customer. One of the best things that you can do is obviously to serve the same customer again and again and again. So when it comes to the initial sale, I think that some people struggle with dealing with the short-term expectations that people have through the marketing that they receive versus the long-term solutions that perhaps you can offer. So whether you're offering a SaaS product, whether it's coaching, whether it's machine learning, whatever that is, how does someone get over that expectation that perhaps is placed from the marketing ads and saying, I could go with this person and they can give me that result?
Well, the first thing is you need to learn how to communicate with people. And this is where marketing goes hand in hand with communication and with sales. And it's not a separate entity like it is portrayed these days. So the first thing that you need to do is improve your own communication and projection of your expectations, and also learn how to set boundaries and expectations when you speak to the customer. So that means that if you speak to the customer and say, look, I'll just give you now an example for a life coach, because I also know that you do NLP coaching as well. Let's say you're talking to a person that has limiting beliefs and you do NLP coaching for life. You can say, look, we can reframe your perspective, and as such, you will have a sometimes even a breakthrough or realization, and things become easier. That's the good news. And that can happen immediately or even within a short period of time. Now, creating a new reality, though, is required that you participate 100%, that you implement those changes, and that when you feel like you're falling back, that you let me know as a coach so I can help you and keep you accountable. Because if you don't, then you will self-sabotage the results that we've made, and that is on you. And that's a real, and if you want permanent results, long-term results, then it's good, even when you are at a certain level, where you continue to actually have me as your coach and mentor. Might not be every week, it might be every 2 weeks or once a month, but to keep going at a level where you know you are kept accountable, where you evolve, where you let go of things that are creeping up on you, and where I can give you questions that give you a different perspective and make you, again, the best version of you.
So I definitely get that from the longevity standpoint. And obviously the aim is to be able to create that new reality and create someone to have that shift, to allow them to move forward. The question that I kind of want to dive into here is, how is it that one can present their offer in a way that is more appealing online to a customer and kind of can build that rapport? Is it statistics? Is it looking at data? Is it testimonials? Like, what do you find works very well just through the plethora of experience that you've had from selling things online?
Oh my God. When it comes to selling things online, it is trial and testing. And what I found is the problem with online selling in general. I mean, testimonials are great because it's a social proof and the credibility factor there, right? That's definitely a good thing. Looking at your copy, of course, how it does come across, and also, possibly just following up through a chat with them and that sort of thing. The problem with online, though, is in general, and this is the problem that I experienced myself, is that people get distracted so easily these days. They get overwhelmed with information online. So you can have the best copy in the freaking world and people will not buy, not because they don't think it is great or whatnot. It's just they get distracted. It's like, yeah, I'm looking at that, and then 30 seconds later they get, somebody else or looking at something else. The best thing that I experience when it comes to online selling is when you get the person to that place where they have a conversation with you, not chatting, an actual conversation like you and I are having right now, because anything in between is not good enough. Because in chatting, people can take words and misunderstand it or read something accidentally differently. Like I did that myself recently, where I read something and then I realized, oh, I misunderstood. But the person on the other end was like, from the get-go, in the defensive mode, where I don't want to be sold to, or I don't want to know anything about it. And so the thing about this is, when the best thing is to actually get the person to say, are you open to having a conversation, and see if I can provide value to you. And if they go, yes, I am, that's the first step and the best step in my experience, where you then ultimately can show up and go, this is how I can help you. You can show your knowledge, your experience, but you can also help the person in the conversation, because they will ask you questions and you will be able to react with answers to it that can actually add value for them to implement in life or in business, where when you do it online, it's very hard to know what it is that they need and what you are actually proclaiming to do. If it is what they need, that's a different question. So therefore, a conversation is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, there's a lot of different data that now people need. I think it's maybe 15, 16 different impressions to actually like remember and click. And I think previously it was 7. It's just because we're so used to seeing ads and seeing all these things that often that distraction is a real challenge. So I love the conversation of getting them on the phone and having that conversation with them. Once you have that initial call, what do you find is one of the best ways to help them to make a decision that's congruent with where they are? Do you find, especially for people that are doing ads or they're kind of running different things, which I know a lot of people are now, do you find that it's better to show them with authenticity things that are going on? You have a catch-up call with them after? Do you find that it's best to speak to them with the next day? Like, what do you find are some of the things that work for you, for the people listening, to kind of give a go and start to get a flavor for what you find is effective?
Well, there is two ways to look at it. One is the hard sell and one is the soft sell. I prefer the soft sell because I don't want to work with people that are not sure of themselves if they want to work with me or not. So therefore, the soft sell is you give them the option on how to proceed. Might even offer a payment plan if that is one thing that they need. And then you confirm it right then and there if they don't need to think about it, if they are made up their mind, and you can just confirm it, get things organized, payment on all of that, and make the next available date, the date for them to get started with the coaching. The hard seller pro or the other thing, if they're not sure, they still want to think about it, which is fine as well. You make a time for a follow-up call, and then you confirm and you ask the question. So what is it that you're specifically not sure about that you need to get clarity on in order for you to make the decision? Can I help you with that? Is there anything that you want to ask me or that you need? And if it is, oh yeah, maybe this or that, then you can address it immediately. If it is, no, I just like to actually get something in writing and then think about it and then talk again with you in 1 week's time or in 3 days' time, that's fine. Some people are like that. I'm actually like that, because I've been burnt before. So I like when people say to me, look, even if you are getting started right away, you will get something in writing. So if that is the case and I get it in writing and I see it, then I will be more likely to go, okay, why not? On the other hand, if I don't have anything and they go, well, do you agree to this? And I haven't seen anything, there's nothing in writing, then I say, send me an email with what I will get, and then I will make it, and then we can talk again, and I'll let you know. The hard sell that I used to do that I don't like doing anymore is you will say to the person, I got this offer. If you make a decision right now, it will be this offer. And you twist their arm. Now, the problem with the hard sell is when people do say yes to you because of it, it can also backfire and people can go, I made that decision because of you. And I don't want that. So therefore, I don't do that anymore. I will say one thing that you can do without doing the hard sell, you can give a date and say to the person, look, I will hold this offer until this date. If I don't hear from you, or if you don't confirm by then ultimately it will be gone, and you can always come back, but it will be without that special deal that I just made you. So you won't save 30%, for instance.
Yeah. Got it. And I think that's very important for people to realize, because very often people can have buyer's regret, where they may make a decision and say yes, and then afterwards they're like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. And then suddenly they're feeling unsure. And then it can lead to a more damaging relationship, actually long-term for your business, because they may not be the right person for you if you're attempting that hard sell. Now, one other question that I have for you, because I've heard two different perspectives, and I'm curious from your standpoint, when it comes to sharing your offer and sharing everything, there've been some different things that I've been reading on when you should show how much something costs and start speaking about the finance. And the majority of people will always say, you build it up, you share everything, and then at the end, once you've built everything out and they ask, then you dive into the price. Now, the other side of things is taking the approach of as if you were heading to a store. You see all the prices straight away, and then you have an understanding of what would actually be right for you, and you can get to understand the details. And there's two different approaches that I think people have. And I'm curious from your standpoint, what you think works better from a sales perspective. If you are showing prices and saying, we've got packages ranging from like 1,000, 5,000, 20,000, what do you think would be the best way forward to enable you to get the result that you desire? And they obviously work in different ways. Or do you think it's better to speak to them and then speak about finances at the end?
I think it's important that you set, you plant the seed from the beginning in the conversation. And say, look, at the end of this conversation, I will make you an offer if it's the right fit for us to work together. Is that okay with you? And if they go yes, then you already got permission, and they will have in the back of their mind that there is something coming up. Now, I'm not a big fan of building it up and then saying, and now you only paid this much. because it's a sales tactic. Of course, they understand the value more, they appreciate it more, but ultimately you can just as much say, look, this is my normal price. If you do make a decision, I give you a discount. It's just as easy, you know. They will, if you explain what the values and benefits, they will still appreciate the value of what it is that you end up offering anyway. And in the end, it's really important to not give them too many choices, because if you are confused, then you're not going to do anything. So the best thing to do is, when you are an expert, to say, look, I got 2, maximum 3 packages, but from what we spoke about, I don't even mention the other 2, because the one thing that I feel is best for you is this. So you could have the biggest package and everything, but you don't need that right now. You don't need somebody to write copy for you. You don't need a branding design team and blah, blah, blah. What you need is one-on-one coaching with me. Now, is my time extremely valuable? Absolutely. But I don't want to sell you something where you can't afford. So therefore, the first package that I have for you is this offer at a basic, where we get started. And when you get better, you can always reinvest more money in yourself and go with a bigger package. And when you're ready and you need those additional services like marketing, copywriting, training for your employees, whatever it is, then we talk about it. But right now, let's get the basics right and first start there and then go into the higher thing. Is it okay with you? And then they will go, yeah, absolutely. They will appreciate that you not just go with the biggest package, because they might A, not have the money, and B, it's not needed for them, and you're honest enough to tell them that.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that. Absolutely fantastic way in which you're articulating yourself. And I can see the authenticity with which you sell, which I think is such a breath of fresh air from, I think, so many people online. So for those listening, Dario, who want to understand a little bit more about what you do, they want to kind of check you out, understand what kind of a long-term relationship would look like from a sales standpoint, where would they go, and where could they find out some more information?
They can always visit my website. I'll share with you the link so you can share it in
the link will be in the notes. Don't worry.
Exactly. Basically, it's dariocucci.net, where they can go find out more about me. They can also ultimately, when they go on the webpage and click on Book Dario, they can get a free discovery coaching call with me, where I literally talk to them about what it is that they feel they need help with. Give them some tips on how they can improve those things that they need to improve on, and then ultimately offer them, make a personalized offer in regards to working with me if that's the right fit. And that's basically the best way to go about it. I'm planning within the next 1 to 2 months to do a sales growth competition, a 90-day competition, where everybody that also works with me has not only access to the Facebook group that is there, but also those that end up, working directly with me also have the opportunity to win a 16-hour one-to-one coaching program, so that they, when they actually participate and apply themselves to, I'll say, with the tools and strategies that I normally share, I have seen my clients make anywhere between 100 to 300% more sales revenue. And that's without running ads or chasing customers and things like that. It is just by changing the approach, changing the mindset, and changing, improving your skills and strategies ultimately, and applying that, especially in the service industry. If you're a coach, expert, or personal trainer, it is very valuable, because sometimes you end up having so many different offers that you confuse yourself before you even confuse your customer, and you undersell yourself. And so that is 2 of the things that I've seen in, experts industry, where most make that mistake, and they make good money, but they got so many things going on. That's exactly the reason why they're actually they're not really have an optimized system in place to look after their existing customers when they get to a place where they're so busy. And because it's just too complex and complicated. And with me, what I'm a fan of is make it simple, so that you eventually can simplify everything that you do, become better at it, and serve your customers better that way.
Brilliant. Absolutely love that. So definitely, check Dario out with everything that he's doing. And if there was one thing that you wanted to leave our audience with today, what would that one thing be?
Well, one thing that I would say is always stay open-minded. Always be willing to explore the possibility of evolving and improving yourself. Do not prejudge a book by its cover. Instead, open that freaking book. Don't look at just a freaking cover. Open that book and look at a page or a sentence that stands out for you and go, wow, I never thought about this. And then be able to and willing to just have that open conversation with people that are coming into your life. Because you never know what doors that will open for you now or in the future if you are closed off or defensive or think you know everything better or think you don't need anybody's help or whatnot. We all need help in life. And especially right now during that crazy time of COVID, we need to stick together. We need to support one another. And so all I'll say is stay open-minded and positive and be there for one another.
Brilliant. Absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for listening in, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you for having me.